And we'll talk briefly about AutoCAD Web. All right. And this is what it's kind of going to look like here. So if you close this, wow, you don't have to close command. Okay, never mind. If you click on the home page here, the big A, that actually kind of takes you and exits you out of that drawing. You'd have to save that drawing if you want to save it. You can always save it locally. You can upload a file as well and new folder, create a new folder. So you have a different few options here. Once you create your subscription, I guess you'll have a few more options and things like that. These are kind of what you'd call just sample drawings, if they're allowing for you here. Like if you open up this one here, discard save changes, and this will kind of open up a drawing for you. And your scroll wheel is going to be your zoom in and out just fine. You can also do a zoom and then like a 0.5x to zoom out, that particular way. If you also do a zoom and then like 5x, it'll zoom in 5 times. Okay. If you do a decimal, it zooms out. You do a non-decimal or whole number and a number, it'll zoom in. Okay. Just think of it, you're magnifying it. You're negative magnifying, you're positive magnifying it. Okay. It's not really negative, but you're zooming in and out. If it's less than 1 being zoomed in there, and then from this point, we're at 1.0 right here. If we want to zoom out, we'd have to go less than 1. Boom. If we want to go in from here, we'd have to go more than 1. So that's how you kind of understand what the X factor is. Okay, I am not going to get a whole lot into this particular thing here, but I would like to talk about a few things in drawings. Okay, talk about the selection process. Okay, I'm going to get out of the web just because I want to basically make sure some of this stuff is understood. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, so if I had a line, boom, F8 for ortho, boom, and I have a line. If I want to pick this, I have a couple of different ways to pick this. Okay, I can just pick the line and I'm here. If there's no command active, this is basically selecting my noun. Okay, it's a noun. I select the object and then I can do something with it. So if I hit E for erase, it erases that object. Undo. If you don't have anything selected, you hit erase, you give it the verb, and you hit enter, then it prompts you to select. So you have to understand the differences between the two. Primarily, AutoCAD was forever verb noun. And then they added grips and things like that. And then you kind of got to where you have verb noun and noun verb. So, excuse me, you will find that you start doing, you will start finding yourself going back and forth between the two. So you'll have all kinds of different things there as far as it goes. So let's talk about a line, talk about a circle. Let's talk about a square, and I'll give you P box. Have that loaded? Yeah, I do. Boom. And we'll draw, let's see, an arc. Boom. Boom. All right. So we're kind of talking about selection processes right now. I'll draw some text. Boom, boom, and we'll say text. Okay. Something to note when you're selecting things. If somebody says select something, you just pick it, and that makes a selection set. Oops. Okay. If you were in a command like erase, okay, then you select things. I want you to get used to verb noun selection because it's going to be a lot more efficient than this and then figuring out what you want to do with it. Because when you select things, AutoCAD's like, okay, you want to do something with this. If you right click over this, it'll give you a couple of options that you can do with these things. You can move, erase, copy selection, scale, rotate. You can do a few things here. That's called the noun to verb. All right. But again, stick with the verb to noun. So say what you want to do. I want to move. Pick what you want to move, click, enter, pick, and go. Now, if I just want to move this out of the way, I don't have to select an O snap or anything similar to that effect. If I just want to move this and I want to move it down over here somewhere, and just pick and pick. I don't have to worry about hitting an O snap or anything like that, or object tracking. I'm going to throw on some annoying things here for intersection and insertion, tangent, nearest. Okay, I'll throw on a few of these. So now if I go move and I pick this, suddenly if I just pick anywhere, and I'm close to something, if I just pick, you notice how it's grabbing? See that little yellow green thing coming up? Those are things that's grabbing. So what happens is if I pick here and I drag over here, then it uses those O snaps. And I didn't really want it to do that. I wanted it to actually go somewhere else. So again, if I'm picking here and I do this, then I'm good. But the second I get close to something else, it snaps to one of those points that it does. Now, if you notice when I'm in here, you can toggle through a few things. If you hit tab, it'll toggle through the variety of points that you had on your O snaps. That gives you a little bit of control if you actually wanted to get to one of those using your O snaps, running O snaps. I do not use running O snaps. That's the F3. Okay. That's what this does. When you toggle F3 on and off, it starts automatically trying to find these points. I usually leave these completely cleared out because they annoy the living hell out of me. Okay, so I leave those off and I draw everything I want. There's also there's a cursor based on specified angles. There's let's see, where's the it's polar tracking. I don't use it, but I'll get into that later for you. But there's also dynamic UCS. This actually used to be the command, but that's this little command bar. Where's that? Right here. Dynamic input. Okay. With this is on, then you type in line, it gives you this stuff right here. This is going to drive you crazy because sometimes it just limits your input and your ability to do things. It locks you into a few other things that you won't want to do. So stay away from that. All right. Again, that's dynamic mode. I'm going to turn that crap off. I use this command prompt down here completely. So again, if I give a command, move. Okay, a couple ways to select that. If I want to select this arc, I just pick on the arc, boom, and I'm good. Or I hit that, I can do a crossing across just like that. If I want to select it and I go this way, it's not going to select. Remember, left to right is window. It won't do it unless I go here to here. All right. So again, today, reason I'm covering this today is because I've had a user who's I'm trying to coach through some other things where I'm at, and I try to tell him to do things, and he doesn't grasp the concept because he refuses to turn off all the stuff I've told him to turn off. But it's like you're hindering yourself. If you pick on something without a command option, you get a grip. Okay, you can pick that grip and just move and move. This means you have to pick that point to move that text. Boom, boom. And again, that's a good base point, a good handle to grab something. But if you're just trying to move it out of the way, it's not really needed. Okay, and if you're using Snap and a good setup drawing, you don't necessarily have to grab things on the item. So if I wanted to move this thing and I wanted to go straight down, I just make sure ortho's on, I'm here, and I move it down. I don't have to be anywhere near it to pick. Okay, gives me the ability to grab, boom. I can crossing that, boom. I can window it. Okay, these are the things you're going to kind of get used to when you're doing the job. All right. Again, selecting things, crossing. If you don't have a command active, you just drag, you go to crossing. You notice all the grits coming up. That tells you no command is active. You hit escape, that all goes away and you're good to go. All right. If you get too many things in your drawing, you just try and select too many things, AutoCAD will freak out and just will ignore you. Okay. And we've talked about optimizing your drawings and keeping your content concise. And we'll talk about that as well. Remember, layers are a good thing. Create layers to work with your objects and things like that. It gives you a little bit of control over selecting things as well. Okay. So another method of selecting is using what's called quick select. Okay. You can just type in Q select and you can actually select things in the drawing. Now it's going to give you options here. You're selecting from the entire drawing. You want to do multiple objects, or you just want to select an arc. Okay. Now it says color this equals this by layer. Okay. If I want to select all the arcs in the drawing, I simply select that, pick OK, and it's selected all those for me. And I could move that out of the way or erase them, do what I want to do. Again, move, I grab, pick, and I move it to where I want. All right. O snaps are a great thing. So let's draw a line here and a line here. So if I wanted to move this circle to the intersection of that, this is when you want to use your O snaps. I'm going to say move, pick my object, and now I'm going to do something specific. I'm going to type in center of here, and then I'm going to go to the INT of here. All right. Now, if you notice something else, undo. If I move this from here, from CN of here to INT of, and I just see how it's got those three little dots on it. I'm not sure if you can quite see that. There's an X showing the intersect symbol, and then three dots. That means that you have an extended intersection, as you can see what it's saying right there. If I pick here and then I get over this, it shows the intersection of those lines there. What that's useful for, I'll move this back out of the way, is if you say, break this, say these don't actually intersect, or even worse off. Or here, let's do it like so. Okay, you want this circle to be right there center where these two lines would intersect. You move from center of here to int of, then you pick this line and this line. Okay, now it's actually there. So if I extended this line here, you can see that's actually right at the center of the circle. Okay, now there's a trick here if something else happens. So if I go at 0.0 minus, comma, minus 10, boom. Move this from here. Now, if I try and move this from center of here to int of here, notice there's no intersection. I can get there and I can't get there. I just cannot do it. That's because there's something different that I'm not seeing here. It's because it's actually a z-plane issue. I changed that line to go down. So if I rotate this on the viewport, you can see this line here goes down. If you list it, you can see the endpoint is -10 for z and the 0 for z. That means it's non-coplanar with this, or it's coplanar with this. All right, so if I want this to actually be on the same plane with this, I can actually grab this one here because this is the one that's down too far, and I can move it up. I can turn on ortho, F8. Okay, now if I drag up, if you see that it says plus z right there. If I drag down, it gets minus z. If I drag to the right down a little bit, that is going in the y direction. And if I drag this way, it's going in the x direction, but it's maintaining that z elevation. I want it to come up to the z elevation of this endpoint right here. So I'm going to say point z of end point of here. And now if I drag this way, I can drag in the x direction, and I can drag this way in the x direction. I can also drag it this way in the y direction, but I can't change the z of it. If I go up and down, the z will not change because I've locked that in. Now, if I just wanted to stay where it was, but only modify the z elevation, at this point, I would say I don't want to change any x, 0. I don't want to change any y, 0. And I'm going to say 0 for z because I've already specified my z. So I hit 0 and enter. And now it's locked in there. And now I can move my circle from center of that to int of that. Now, if you get to I'm typing in plan and then hitting enter to go back to my world view right here. All right, so it's nice, my plan view right there. So if I get on my isometric here, or I start dragging around and I'm like, where am I at? I don't know how to get back to my regular thing. My Y is pointing down to the right, my X is pointing down to the left, and Z is kind of up this direction. And I'm like all kind of squirrely. I can't really draw this way. I can. You can just start drawing P line, boom. If you start drawing a line though, problem is, and then you turn off ortho, you could be drawing on multiple Z elevations or not. Okay. Typically you're going to stay at the elevation you're at, but if you start going to different objects, snapping different objects that have different Z elevations, you're going to be picking on those things. Something that's nice about a P line is a two-dimensional polyline stays flat. It will not go in 3 dimensions. There is a 3D poly command that you can actually utilize if you want that. Okay, but there are 2 different things. Lines are not limited in the Z elevation. They can go up and down however you want them to do. I'm going to go to plan. I'm going to type in PLAN. Okay, now the option here is it says, well, what do you want to do? Current UCS, UCS, or world? Now current is the current UCS, and that happens to be world. So I'm going to hit enter and I'm done. All right, so here's what I've drawn from looking at that particular aspect of it and everything else. So if I want to erase things in here, okay, you can erase and you can come in here and just pick and pick and pick and pick, or you can get creative. Oops. You can get creative and you can actually say erase. You can hold and drag and just try to do a squirrely through here. Say I just want to get to there, boom, and then I'm done. Undo. Or if you want to erase, you can say CP for crossing polygon. And I can go across here, across here, across here, down here, and then across here, and then in here, so I don't get that line there. And then I'm done. I get the same result with that. Or I can do erase, and I can just crossing right across here. And I'm good as well. There's lots of ways to select. Get used to it, practice it, and understand what you're doing and what you're selecting. Understand what your selection is going to give you. Let's talk about the stretch command for a minute. Okay, if I want to stretch this peak up, okay, if I do a stretch and I do a crossing, okay, if I just grab this whole thing right here and I pick up, that's stretching. It's not stretching. It's moving everything that was encompassed in that selection area, but it's stretching the things that it actually crossed. So if I just want this peak up here to go, I have to make sure that a crossing up here, and then I can grab that and I hit F8 and that can go as high as I want it to go. Okay. So if I want to stretch, say I just want to stretch this one here, but not that one there. Okay. Now, if I'm zoomed out here, it's kind of difficult to say, okay, boom, and grab, boom. That actually worked for me. I'm easy. That's the only thing I'm stretching, I'm working with, so I'm good there. Okay. And I can actually drag it over here. Let's get those a little closer, and it's kind of more difficult, more tedious to actually work with. Okay. Say if I actually just want these, say I just want this line. I want to change this line only, not this one, not this one, not this one. I can actually come across here and do a crossing here, and then I can remove this one using the R and then remove, pick, and then enter, and then it's only going to use the item that I actually have in my selection of that last crossing. Okay, so understand that if you do a selection set, erase, and I just come in here and I boom, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to erase my text, I can hit R, and then I can remove it from there. Okay, and I want to keep my polyline and I want to keep my arc. Boom. And now I'm back to a little bit closer to what I had originally. Okay, now using grips, you can take things. Let's take a line, for instance. A line has 3 grips: end, and middle. You grab in the middle, that is move. Okay, you grab on an end, that is stretch. You grab on an end, that's stretch. Okay, a P line is a little bit different. P line goes from here to here. Boom. I click that. You have the same grips. You have an endpoint, midpoint, endpoint, and midpoint. If you do the midpoint, it actually acts like a stretch for the other line. Okay, so now I'm actually stretching. It's changing that line point there, but it's moving these two here. So it acts more like a stretch. And again, I can stretch this way as well. And now it's stretch, if I grab down here, it's just moving the one endpoint that I'm dealing with. Similarly, if you have an arc, you have a midpoint, that's actually going to actually change the radius of your arc. All right, so know that. It's also moving the center of your arc as well. So keep that up. Okay, if I click on the center, it's the move command. All right, and again, if I click on the end, this is just stretching, and it's going to move the center point to wherever I end up picking the end of this arc here. And again, we go the other way and do that. So you have a lot of flexibility on what you can actually do with your grips and understanding your selection sets. If you have a polyline box, you click on this, you can actually grow the box just by grabbing one of the midpoints and taking it, different directions. All right. And now if we're going to go back to some of the variables that we've talked about, your pick box and aperture are what control some of the size of this. Okay. Pick box. Not sure if we lost Brandon there or what happened there. Okay.
No, I'm just trying to get this to work properly.
Okay. All right. I am recording it, so you can always go back and watch later if you need to. Mostly kind of harping on just basic CAD and selection skills. Okay. All right. There are multiple ways to change things in CAD. Okay. For the most part, you've got your properties and you can do just about anything you need from here. Okay. But you don't want to limit yourself to click, 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 click. All right. There are list routines, things like that out there. Most of the stuff is not used by newer users. So if I have multiple text here, copy. Say if I wanted to number these 1 through something, okay? I could sit here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I'd have to escape to get out of this particular mode of command. That was painful. Okay. So let's undo, do, okay, do. All right. So a list routine is something that actually kind of automates the process, or executes this particular set of commands. I'm going to type in CT. This is a Lisp routine. It's not something you're going to get in standard AutoCAD. It's something you'd have to actually load. But there are tons of Lisp routines out there and things like that. So if I just pick these in the order I want to edit them, and then I hit enter, now I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, which way was faster? It's pretty evident which way was faster there. Okay, now you can also find things where you're kind of like, okay, well, now I need to put something in front of that. It should say TS dash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can sit there and come back and say, boom, you can go here, go CT, or no, TS dash, and you're like, oh, it needs to be, and say you went down through all these and you did that with all of them, TS dash, boom, and you're like, oh crap, that needs to be uppercase. Now, uppercase is another Lisp routine. Allows you to modify that, and it'll actually put that on there for you. Okay, I'm going to undo. All right, now here we are. Now this one's a little more intensive. Let's say you had 50 of these or whatever. You can pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now I want to prefix these with TS and then put a suffix on the end of it as well for some reason. Okay, so I can actually add a prefix. I'm going to add, and I'm going to say multiple, and I'm going to say typical. And the prefix is going to be TS dash. Okay, and I hit enter, and then it does it. Okay, you can see that you'll have all kinds of different ways to do things with Lisp and such like that. Okay, if you have more text here, oh, that's going to be rather large text. Okay, copy. All right, other things you can do with text. If you want to, like I said, upcase it all. Okay, now that basically changed everything to uppercase. If you want to change the layer or something, let's create a layer. Lisp routines are really handy because you can do a lot of different things with them. Okay, I'm gonna say color. Let's call this blue. And we'll set that to blue. I'm gonna do another layer and call it yellow. And we'll set that yellow. Okay. And let's add, put this on blue. We're gonna put this on yellow. All right, now here we are. I have 2 layers that have things on them. This is a Lisp routine as well. It's called CL. Say if I want a CL, I want to match. I want all this to go to this layer. I highlight that and I pick it. Now it's all on the appropriate layer for me. Now there's also a command that's actually built into AutoCAD. It's called match prop. Okay, you type in match prop. You select the source, say the blue here, and then I can highlight all kinds of things. And what it'll do is it'll look at what it can find in common to match across those. And this being, since there's lots of different types of entities, it's going to match the color. Okay, if it can match the text style and everything else and the height, you're going to notice it did that as well. But if I didn't want to do that, that's where you have issues with match prop actually doing a little bit too much than you want to do. So at that point in time, you'd have to get something set the way you want to and then make it happen. So if I wanted this text to just be on that layer, okay, I'd probably have to do this, set this to blue, and then I could do match props. And I can pick the blue one and then pick all of them and I'm done. Now it just matched the layer. But in all reality, it matched all the properties of that text that it could match. Okay, so let's say if I have in here and I set my width to something else, I set it to 0.7. It's a little bit skinnier text is what that means. Okay, I hope y'all can see that. I know blue is hard to see in this thing. If I want to do match props now, and I select that and I highlight all this, then they're all set to that same width factor. Okay, so you have to watch out. Match prop will match everything it possibly can. And so that's why some Lisp routines give you a little bit more flexibility because they're specifically designed for that function. Think of them as little baby apps that you're running inside AutoCAD, and they just work on a particular subset of things to do. If I want to highlight all these here and just change them all back to 1, done. All right, so this gives you a little bit of understanding of the selection. Now, let's talk about finding an insert point on text. I'm going to type in style, and I'm going to create another style, new. And we're gonna call this regular. Okay, and actually I'm gonna call this one, to Arial. And I'm gonna call this one, and leave that alone, standard. I'm gonna set that to actually a true type font. Not true type font. See the true type fonts, and then you'll scroll down, you'll see the AutoCAD fonts, which are SHX fonts. They have a little AutoCAD thing like bold SHX. I'm gonna go down to Roman S. Okay, very typical use font in AutoCAD is Roman S, Simplex. These are two very common, and TXT are very three common fonts that you'll actually use in AutoCAD. They're not as pretty as the true type fonts, but they're pretty bare bones. Okay, I'm gonna pick OK, close. And now if you look at this text is a little bit flatter, doesn't have all that extra stuff on it and everything else. But if I want to draw a line from the INS of this, notice that anywhere I'm on that text, it's pretty easy to find. Boom, and I can draw a line from there, and I'm here. Now I'm going to draw some text, and I'll place it here, and I'll make it big. And we'll call it text. Boom. Now this is my Arial font. Now watch when I try and do an insert from here. I have to see I'm actually over the text and it's not finding it. I have to go outside and hit the box that text would actually fit into before it actually finds it. So it's easy to get confused here because you're trying to find the insertion point and you can't find it. You get too close to the edge and it's pretty easy to find it. But if you try and pick anywhere inside, it doesn't work very well. But if you notice anywhere over the text here, it finds it. I mean, if you're over that text, it finds it without any issues. That's one of the differences or the variations that you'll run into when you're dealing with text and different types of fonts. The SHX fonts, if you're over that text, it's going to find it. A true type font, you have to be a little bit closer to the outside. And depending on the font itself, it may be more complex and it may be more difficult to find. And it's a little bit more tedious as well. So you'll find that I prefer to work with standard AutoCAD fonts instead of Arial. But there is a benefit to using Arial with a 1.0 width and a 0 rotation, because then it's easily recognized in an Adobe, in a PDF format, as actually recognizable text, versus you have to do OCR on a PDF that's actually created from AutoCAD, unless they cheat and use the PDF SHX setting, which we will not get into right now, but that's another thing that actually creates a little more headache and a lot more overhead. Okay. So again, selection. Okay. Don't be bashful and try and make sure you have a point. If you just want to move something out of the way, pick, grab, pick, and pick. You don't have to do anything with it. If you know that you want to move this text over 10 inches, okay, you don't have to pick the insertion point. You don't have to pick the insertion point and then type in 10. Okay. You can just pick, boom, pick, and drag the direction you want, type in 10. You don't have to do anything. If you don't want to do that, say I want to move the same thing, I hit M, move, and then P for previous, and then hit enter. And then I don't have to pick a point here. I can actually, it's looking for displacement. What displacement means is from 0, 0, 0. Type in how far you want to move. I want to move 10, 0, 0. That's going to move 10 inches to the right. Okay, that's actually my base point. And so, and now I can type in 10 and I'm done again. All right. Now displacement means you can actually hit enter and then it actually is looking for that displacement. So I'm going to do P for previous and then hit enter. And now it's automatically moving from 0, 0, 0. So now if I type in 10, 0, 0, it's only going to move 10 units to the right. Okay, if I wanted that to go down, I could say move P for previous, and then I can say enter for displacement. Displacement means from 0, 0, 0. And then I can say 0, 10, 0. That means it's going to move 10 down. All right. And you're not noticing a whole lot of difference because I'm not really moving this too far away from where it actually was. But that's what displacement is. So if let's do this. If I move this, pick M for this, and then hit enter, then again, you notice my point is already right here. Now, something to note is if you got stuff boom, zoom extents, and you're zoomed in over here, and you want to move this, boom, and you actually hit enter, and you're like, hey, what's going on? And you hit enter again, or you pick, and you're like, where'd it go? it went way off over here because the displacement was farther away from where you were. So keep that in mind. So if you do move, you pick something and you hit enter by accident, and you don't realize you pick enter by accident, you just pick a point, it's going to move however far from 0, to this with the angle or the vector that you're actually using. You have the distance that you are and the angle, and that from that point, it's going to take those values and move it to that particular point. So if I just pick the INS of this, it's going to be from 0, to the INS of this that it moved. And that's why it actually goes all the way up here. So these are things you're going to notice in AutoCAD when you're kind of dealing with it. All right. Let's talk about a good command here. Okay. Let's talk about dimensions. Let's do this briefly. Okay. P line. I'm going to draw a box. 120. 240 and 120. 20. PDR to here. And so how would I actually end up closing this? Quickest way is just to grab it, click, and then pick, boom, and you're done. That's actually closed. Now I can offset this, offset command. You pick a distance you want to actually offset. Say I want it to be 10 inches, boom, and I have my offset. So keep in mind, you pick what you want to offset and then the direction that you want to offset. If I want to keep going outside, I can keep going outside and keep going that particular way. If I go too far in, it will get too small to where it can't actually do the offset and it'll stop. And I can't do it anymore. Okay. All right. So now the second dimension, dim HOR. Okay. This allows you to draw purely a horizontal dimension. Okay. I go from endpoint here to endpoint of here. Then I pick my spot for it. Now, if you zoom in, you can see it's 240 inches. All right. Now, I can't read that in my drawing size, depends on my scale of my drawing. Let's say scale of this drawing is 32. So I need to go in my dimension settings, DDIM, and I can go in my settings. You can create multiple styles for different purposes and things like that. But we're going to modify this one. And I'm going to do a fit, and I'm going to set my scale factor here, use overall scale of say 32. I pick OK, and then you notice my dimension scales up to look a little bit better where I can actually read that. Now dim vertical. Okay, now to go end up point of here down to end point of here. All right. Now you look at this, you're like, well, this kind of gets cumbersome in here. All right. I'm going to go to DDIM, and I'm going to modify this. I want my dimensions to line up with the alignment. So you hit aligned with dimension line. All right. There are a ton of settings inside AutoCAD for dimensions, and the more you get familiar with them, the better off you're going to be. Horizontal, okay. Vertical, above, okay. So it actually puts the text above the line. So I think, okay, you can see what that does to this. Okay. Now the dimensions above the line and above the line. Keep in mind, when you're drawing, your text is either going to go left to right or from bottom up. It's going to go, so your orientation is going to be 90 degrees. Okay. So if you take this dimension here, and I go from here, it doesn't matter which direction you draw it, okay, or which side you put it on, it's going to stay that way. All right. This is by design. This is the drafting rule. And also when you're dealing with north, north is up or to the left. Now, north is always Y direction. East and west is always X direction. All right, or the X axis. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you do need to put north in your paper space to the north, you can rotate your viewport. Okay, so let's put in a north arrow. I don't have one. Insert NAR. That work? No, I don't have one. Let me see if I can find it real quick. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to scroll. I'm going to go to one of my folders. I'm just going to go find a north arrow. Okay, I could probably find one here pretty quick. Now keep in mind, BMPs don't work inside my drawing. Okay, but I don't have any in there. So let's go down to Go down here. You go to. Now you see the drawing files or something I use. So you can always change your type here and then just look at drawing files. Let's scroll down through here. And I don't have a north arrow anywhere. Oh, here's one. Good. I can drag and drop this in my drawing. If I drag it up here, it goes to open. But if I drag it into the drawing area, it will go to insert mode. Okay. And I can insert that in my drawing. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a scale factor of, say, 32, because we already talked about it being 32. Enter. And that kind of looks normal for me. Okay. So now if I click in my layout, you know, north is going up. If I wanted my north to go to the left, I could actually click on this and rotate it 90 degrees. I got to pick a point first. I'll pick here 90 degrees. And then what I can do is I can actually pick on this and I could set this to 1 equals 32. See if they have 3/8 of an inch in here. Okay. Yeah, there's 3/8 of an inch. Click. Okay. And now I can boom, boom. Let's zoom distance. Get that all in there. Click there. This is probably not big enough to do my 32 in here, but I'm going to make it bigger just so it can be sure. All right, now I'm going to set it to, I'll move, click in here, and I'll adjust that a little bit, click out, highlight it, and then I'm going to set that back to 32. Great, okay. And now you can see my north arrow is going to the left, but notice what happens with my dimensions. Okay, that's an issue. Okay, that's why you typically want to do your dimensions in Paperspace. What's nice about doing your dimensions in Paperspace is they are in Paperspace. You don't really have to worry about your dimension styles being all messed up. So I'm going to type in DDIM. I'm going to go back to modify, and I'm going to set my dimension to 1 because I'm in Paperspace now. So I'm going to hit close, and I'm going to double click in here. I'm going to erase that and erase that, delete those. I'm going to click back out of Paperspace. You can do that by double clicking outside of your model of your viewport. If I double click on my viewport, I go into model space. Notice I have a thing there and I can't get my cursor to come out. That means you're locked into a viewport in Paperspace. If you scroll over and you get your mouse, then you double click outside, that takes you back to Paperspace. You cannot select any of the items inside your viewport, okay? But you can select the viewport, all right? Paperspace, you can also do that down here. You can type, there's a couple ways to do it. If I double click in there, you can always type in PS, you go back to Paperspace. You can double click, you go back into it, and PS to get out of it. All right, so now let's talk about dimensions. I'm outside of it, so I can type in dim VR, and I can go END point of here to END point of here, boom, and go up now. Yeah, and go from END point of here to END point of here, boom, and I can do dim horizontal from END point of here to END point of here, boom. And you notice it actually all works out. It's no longer upside down and messed up. So your north arrow is located in this place and it's actually pointing left. Now keep in mind, when you have a drawing, your north arrow is typically going to be in the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to grab, now say this is in paper model space. This is a symbol, so it's probably more appropriate for it to be in Paperspace. So a couple ways to do that. You could come over to model space. You type in Control-Shift-C from 0, and pick it, boom. And then you paste it over here, Control V, 0, boom. Then you can zoom extents. You're like, whoa, it's way over here. Then you can pick it. And you can actually, oh, I know I need to set the scale to 1, boom. And then you're like, well, it's still way over there. Now I have to move it. Boom. Boom. You get over here in your drawing area and you're like, here. It's like, oh, well, I know that's supposed to be rotated. So I can actually click on it. I can set it to rotation to 90. Boom. Now it's pointing the right direction. I have the north arrow there. Okay. So that's one way to do it. A little more tedious. Okay. So, or you can undo. Okay. So here I am. So what I can do here is I can go back to layout. I can, oops. Yeah. I can double click inside here and I can type in change space. I can pick it. And what that does is that moves it. It takes care of the scale factor for me. If you notice, it's now 1. Didn't move it anywhere inside Paperspace, but it just brought it through exactly where it was on the viewport, and it updated the scale of it to make sure it's there. So now I can just grab it and move it because it's actually in Paperspace now. I can move it to the upper left, and there you go. All right, so that same thing works for just about anything. So say if you had a symbol in here that you had actually drawn, and you placed it in your drawing, and you want it to be inside, there's a dimension. I'm going to delete that dimension. Say you have a circle, and let's say it's here. I'm going to say it's supposed to be a diameter of 0.25, boom, and I scaled it from center of this 32 times, and it was actually supposed to be that size. Say that for some reason I had that size in my drawing, and that's what size it's supposed to be, but it's actually a symbol, and I want that to be in Paperspace. Now I can double click on here, change space, and if it's a block or whatever it is, it's going to take care of it. It automatically scales it to be appropriate. And if I click on that, you can see it's a 0.25 diameter, and that's the exact size that I actually want that to be inside my printed document. Okay, so that's all we have for our drawing segment today. We wanted to concentrate on selection, different types of objects, the methods that you're issuing commands. You have the noun, verb, verb, noun. AutoCAD traditionally started as a verb noun, did not have the noun verb. Okay, and again, I use primarily and dominantly verb noun. Okay, but when I'm using grip edit, the most common thing to do is grab, and then that is actually noun, and then you do something with it, verb. Okay, you will develop a hybrid attitude towards it, but understand that you have commands inside AutoCAD that are much more efficient than trying to pick something and then trying to figure out what to do with it. Understand your commands. You have move, you have erase, you have copy, you have offset, you have fillet, you have array, you have tons of these commands out there for you. Understand them, understand what they do and what they're useful for. All right, let's draw something. Let's see, what can we draw today? Liam, what do you want to draw today?
Quick. Minecraft character, Steve.
All right, that's just blocks. Let's see, let me find Steve. Let's see if I can find Steve. Okay, hold on here. Okay.
I was thinking
Steve.
of basic.
Okay, there's Steve. Okay, so we're gonna draw Steve. Steve is just a block-headed character. He's got like little sticks for legs, and he's got a square body, a couple of sticks for arms, and he's got his box head. So I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna leave that over here on my other screen so I can see it, and I will kind of draw him. All right, so I'm gonna click over here to model space. I'm just gonna erase everything. Okay, I'm gonna draw a box, PBOX. I'm gonna pretend that his head is a 1x1 box at 1, 1. Boom. All right, does it make sense? Boom. Here's his head. All right, so I'm going to extrude that. Boom, 1. So that's his head. Boom. All right, now we're going to draw his body. I'm going to say that's a half by 1.5 P line or P box. I'm going to say this is at 1, 0.5. Boom. Extrude this 1.5. Boom. And I'm going to move that up underneath him from mid of that to mid of that. Okay, so now we have his upper body. Now we need to draw his arms. I'm going to say that's half by half is what it looks like. Okay, PBOX from here. I'm going to say at 0.5 from 0.5 and extrude. That looks like that's probably going to be 1.25, 1.25, boom. And it might be a little bit smaller, not sure, probably might be a little off of my scales here. Okay, we'll have 2 of these, okay. We're gonna say move that one that way, boom. Actually move another half, 0.5, boom. Move that and that from E and D point of that to E and D point of that. Okay, now I'm going to draw his legs. His legs are a little bit longer than his arms. I'm just going to copy those down, or one of these down. And I'm going to use the shift and pick on the face, actually control and pick on the face. And then I'm going to draw that up just a little bit further. I'm gonna say 0.25, boom. And now I'm gonna move that from E and D point of there to E and D point of there. Now I'm going to copy that. I could use copy here or I could use mirror here, but I'm going to use copy because I'm already there and I don't have any reason to use mirror. I'm going to say endpoint of here. Now I'm going to use some 3D rotate commands here now. Okay, let's do some colors here. Let's say body, our shirt, boom. And we're going to set that to cyan. Let's go with that cyan right there. Boom. And we'll say legs. And we're going to set that to a darker bluish color. A blue there. Boom. And then we're going to say arms. And I'm going to set that to a more of a humish color. Let's go here. Sure, why not? Boom. It's not the prettiest color, but it'll work. Okay, and his head, we're going to set that to brownish head. And we'll set that to brown. Boom. Boom. All right, now we're going to put our things on layers. We'll put his head on the head layer. Head. Boom. I'm going to put his arms on the arms layer. I'm going to put his body on the shirt layer. And put his legs on the legs layer. Boom. Boom. All right, so we're good there. We've got a good start for him. All right, so I'm going to rotate this arm back a little bit. I'm going to say 3D rotate. Okay, boom. But I want to rotate it from the middle of here. Okay, and I'm going to rotate on this bar here because I want it to go around this circle here. So I click that and I'll say minus 45. Boom. That actually went the wrong way. Okay, so what I can do is I can just rotate it again, 3D rotate. And this time I'll do a plus 90. And I'm going from the center or mid of that point right there. And I'm going on this beam here. And I'm going to say minus 90. Did I say minus 4? Oh, I'm going to go 90, not plus 90. That one's in the back. All right. And then I'm going to do 3D rotate. Boom. And I'm going to use the shift button and my center mouse. I'm going to drag around so I can see this other side. And I'm going to say from the midpoint of here, because that's my pivot point. And I'm going on this ring right here. And I'm going to say minus 45. I already had that one down from earlier. Okay, so now he's walking there. I need to take this one here and move it towards the front. So I'm going to do that. But this one I'm going to pivot from the front right here. I'm going to say 3D rotate from E and D point of here. Okay, and I want it to rotate. I'm going to say here, and I'm going to say from here, I'm going to say minus 45 again. So now that leg's sticking out, and we can take this one and do the same thing, 3D rotate. And I'm going to pick from the back side of here, and I'm going on the red beam here, and I'm going to say 45. Boom. So now he is a walking. All right, we could actually draw his little pickaxe, it looks like, or something like that. Put that in his hand. All right. Way we do that is we can just draw a circle. I'll put it here, and I'm going to say, we'll say 0.2 for that. I'll extrude that up. That looks like to be a full unit. 1, boom. And I'm probably going to make that smaller. Now, once I've got an object extruded, there's a couple things you can do with it. Like if you click the where you extruded from the bottom up, gives you the option to make it kind of smaller here, but it also has you a little grip over here that you see here that you can actually take it and make it more of a conical thing. Okay. Or if you actually want to change the size of it, you can grab down here inside and that'll actually change the whole thing. So you have different control points on your solids. Okay. So I'm going to adjust this in by 0.0625. Boom. And I'm still not happy with that. And we'll go another 0.0625. 0.065. But all right, I like that. That works pretty good for me. All right, so I've got that. Now I need to put a little arc here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go front here. I'm going to type in UCS. I'm going to set my view to the current view because I want Y going up and X going here. That's my viewpoint. So I'm going to draw an arc across here, ARC, and it's going to go from here to here and to here, and we'll call that good. Now I want something to kind of go across that. I can use a circle or I can use a spline. I can do all kinds of things here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cheat here, and I'm going to do a triangle. I'm going to draw kind of a quick triangle here. Boom, boom, and close it. All right, and use the sweep command. I'm going to sweep this object on this. All right, so now, oops. Oops, edit off the zoom since I need to move my hammer head closer to my object. That's what you will run into when you're drawing in 3D. Your particular point where you're at might not be where you want it to be. So I'm going to move this from, I'm going to grab the mid of here. I'm going to go to the center of here. All right. So now I kind of have a pickaxe of some sort. It's very crude. Okay, I'm going to move it over a little bit because this is just weird. So let's move it. F8. Yeah, it's good enough. All right, and that's fine. Layer. Let's create a layer for our axe. Axe or pick. Pick. Okay, and we'll create a color for that. Let's go with something different. Let's go with pink. Boom. Doesn't have to match what we're doing. Okay, and I'm gonna put this on the pick layer. Boom. Now we're gonna put it in his hand. All right, so zoom around here. I'm going to take this, move this from center of here to the mid of here. All right, move previous. I'll move it up a little bit. Boom, and I want it to rotate a little bit as well. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to 3D rotate. I'm going to pick P for previous, and I'm going to say from the center of. Now this is where it's tricky because I can't quite see the center of what I want to get to. Okay. And if I get there, I can find it. So now I'm going to click on this one here, and I want it to rotate. I'm going to say minus 45. Up, wrong way. Undo. 3D rotate. Previous from center of there, and I'm going to say 45. Oh, got to pick my ring. Sorry, my bad. Boom, 45. Boom. All right. Now I could probably move it up a little bit. It's not looking too bad. Now, if we wanted to create some additional things to go on him as well, like different colors, or if we wanted to put some eyes or something like that, we could actually create more blocks inside here. Okay, now using F6, which is dynamic UCS on. Now, right now I can draw a P line from here. Now, if you notice the face that I go to, it's highlighting where it's going to dynamically create me on the UCS. It'll put me on that face. So if I click here and then I draw up, and then I come back over to point X of, again, the point of here. And this gets weird. Undo. Not what I wanted to do. Oh, that's point. Now, keep in mind when you draw on dynamic UCS, it does give you some weird points. So I'm just going to click across here and then see if it flows. Now I can actually put this on a different layer, call that eyes or something like that. And I could extrude that and just kind of give it a little bit of extrusion. I'll say 0.0125. And so that's how I can actually get my eyes. And I can actually make them bigger if I wanted to, or whatever, however I wanted to do that. So you actually have a little bit of options here, what you can do with that. Okay. So that's a rough, quick sketch of your buddy Steve. That work for you, Liam?
Looks pretty good.
All right, good deal. All right, guys. You guys have a wonderful night, and we will continue on next Wednesday. Give me an idea what you guys have decided. I want you to pick a project and draw something. If you need me to give you an assignment, let me know, and I will give you something to draw. But I'd like you to pick something in your house, look at it. Don't worry about 3D modeling it. Just draw it from a plan view or a side view or both. Okay. So if you create an elevation view, you create a plan view and kind of go from there. Okay. If you have a cabinet or something like that you'd like to draw that. Okay. Draw a keyboard, whatever you want to draw. Pick something in your house and draw it in CAD. Make it real size as well. Keep that in mind. Don't just sketch the outline of it and say that's it. Actually measure it figure out how big it needs to be in CAD and draw it properly in CAD and do the best you can with the features of it. Keep in mind, like you're drawing a table, you'll have a fillet and you'll check that radius on the corners of your table if it has corners. If it has straight at corners, then you're good with that. But just keep in mind, pick something inside your house and draw it. A table's a really good thing to draw. A chair is a pretty good thing to draw. Just about anything. A door is a good thing to draw. So you can kind of get into it and just kind of have fun with it. All right. And then send me your drawings. I'd like to see how you guys are doing. And then I give you guys some feedback.
Okay, sounds good. I was gonna pick like maybe my TV or something. I think that'd be kind of cool, fun to design. Maybe something, maybe.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good night, and we will talk to you later. I will upload this video as soon as we're done, and it'll be up there probably within an hour.
Sounds good. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
You as well.